What are you doing? Seeing the other party's furious appearance, Zhang Xuan was truly speechless. This misunderstanding seems a bit big. But then again, if it were anyone else, they would probably misunderstand too. He hadn't given her cultivation guidance, yet she willingly enrolled. Furthermore, when asked about it, she blushed. And most importantly, there were the shattered pieces of the recording Yade slip scattered all over the floor. This was clearly destroying evidence. With so many suspicious signs, how could he expect others not to immediately think that Zhang Xuan was a pervert, a lustful maniac, or some shameless teacher? Uncle Yao, what nonsense are you thinking? If you continue like this, I will never speak to you again. Seeing Yao Han's furious appearance and hearing what he said, how could she not know what her family steward was thinking? Her beautiful face crumpled into an ugly expression. She was about to go mad. She was a young lady. If he spoke such rubbish, where would her reputation stand? Young miss. Stopped by Zhao Ya, Yao Han had no choice but to retract his aura. All right, come with me to collect the bedding. Don't waste my time. I have to go to class tomorrow. Zhao Ya huffed and turned to leave the room. She naturally couldn't tell others about the sickness in her body. If questioned, how could she possibly utter such things? Therefore, she could only tell others that she had willingly chosen Teacher Zhang as her master without fabricating any other reason. Humph! Seeing his young miss turn and leave, Yao Han glared coldly at Zhang Xuan, his eyes spitting fire, but he didn't know what to think, so he flicked his sleeve and walked out. He truly wanted to kill the young man standing before him right now. If it weren't for this being the academy and the young miss stopping him, he probably would have struck long ago. I didn't provoke anyone, did I? Seeing the opponent's cold expression, Zhang Xuan truly felt helpless. I only accepted a student. What's the big deal? It's like I'm a demon that stops at no evil. But the problem is, I haven't done anything at all. Forget it. It's still early today. Let's see if I can recruit a few more students. Recruiting more students means having more resources. The teachers at Hengtan Academy were classified into many ranks. Every year, based on the students' performance, an evaluation of the teachers would be conducted. The more students a teacher had, and the faster their students improved and achieved good results in various competitions, all contributed to the teacher's promotion. If a teacher obtained a high rank, the resources the teacher received, as well as the resources their students received, would also multiply. This was the path of simultaneous improvement for both the teacher and the student. Currently, he had recruited only 3 students. This was enough to let him keep his teaching position. But in terms of qualifications, he was still ranked dead last. If he wanted to improve, he could only continue to recruit students. Zhang Yang, don't be disappointed. It's only because Teacher Wang Chao didn't choose you, right? Don't be so glum. On a path in the academy, 2 young men were walking slowly. The one in front was consoling the one behind. Mo Xiao, you were chosen, so of course it sounds easy coming from you. Just try being rejected yourself and see if you can still speak like that. Zhang Yang frowned, clearly disliking his friend's consolation. Don't say that. Actually, other teachers are fine too. It doesn't necessarily have to be Teacher Wang Chao. The young man named Mo Xiao scratched his head, slightly embarrassed, and said, "It doesn't necessarily have to be that teacher? Easy for you to say. We have been practicing spear arts since we were young. Now the spear is like a part of our body. We cannot give it up. And in this Hengtan Academy, the person who can teach spear arts the best is Teacher Wang Chao. You were accepted, and I was rejected. How can I not be depressed?" Zhang Yang vented his anger, breathing heavily. This... Mo Xiao was questioned and didn't know how to respond. In Hungtan Academy, different teachers specialize in different areas, and their teaching styles naturally varied. For example, some specialized in foot arts, some in blade arts. Teacher Wang Chao was the most famous for his spear arts expertise and ranked among the top teachers in the academy.
The two had participated in the selection process together, hoping to become the teacher's students. The result was that one was accepted and the other rejected. No wonder the rejected one was depressed. "Hey, there's a classroom here. Why don't we go check it out?" Not knowing how to ease the awkwardness, Mo Xiao suddenly spotted a classroom not far away and pointed towards it. "I'm not going." Zheng Yang shook his head. "Come on, let's just check it out. What if the teacher inside also specializes in spear arts?" Mo Xiao continued to persuade. "Checking it out won't hurt, right?" "All right." Although a little unwilling, Zheng Yang finally decided to follow Mo Xiao into the classroom. Inside the room, Zhang Shan was considering whether he should go out and try to recruit people when he saw two young men walk in. "Hello, teacher." Mo Xiao bowed in greeting. Zhang Shan looked them over and continued. "Do you wish to acknowledge a master? It's this brother of mine. He is very capable, especially his spear arts. Though young, few can defeat him. We hope the teacher will give him some guidance," Mo Xiao quickly said. "Mo Xiao," Zheng Yang tugged at his best friend's sleeve. "What's wrong?" Mo Xiao asked, confused. "Look around you. This classroom is very small, able to hold only a dozen people at most. One glance was enough to tell it was just a small training room." The size of the classroom reflected the teacher's ability. The top teachers in the academy all had very large classrooms, looking like plazas, capable of accommodating several hundred students practicing at once. This classroom was tiny. The teacher's level must be mediocre. "Well, it's a little small." Mo Xiao also noticed the size of the room, feeling slightly uneasy inwardly. He originally intended to help his friend relieve his distress. Now he had led him directly to such a small classroom. If the teacher's ability was very low, he might just add to his friend's annoyance instead of solving the problem. "Show your spear arts." Pretending not to hear the two students whispering, Zhang Shan said calmly, showing no emotion. "Well, we're here now. Just let this teacher give you some guidance. It costs nothing. If his level isn't good, then we won't acknowledge him as a master." Seeing Zhang Yang still hesitating, Mo Xiao advised, Zhang Yang nodded. Except for the top teachers who had many students flocking to enroll, for the remaining teachers who sought students, the students still had the right to decide whether to enroll or not. Having thought it through, Zhang Yang no longer hesitated. He took the long spear from his back, section by section, and connected them. Whoosh! Holding the long spear, Zhang Yang's demeanor completely changed, like a sharp sword drawn from its sheath, radiating an intense and threatening aura. Whoosh! 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 The long spear tore through the wind with every move, creating fast, sharp, and concise sounds as if tearing the entire room. Violent wind swirls erupted around him. A professional's skill is immediately apparent upon seeing their first move. Although the student Zhang Yang's cultivation was not overly strong, his spear technique was indeed impressive. The spear tip trembled, suddenly thrusting into the stone pillar not far away, producing a clear clang, causing the stone pillar to display a series of numbers. 110. He actually hit over 100 kilograms. If only considering destructive force, he would likely be capable of stopping even a martial artist at the peak of the gathering breath realm. "Please give me some guidance, teacher." Retracting the long spear, Zhang Yang was not out of breath, his heart rate unchanged, his expression calm, and he spoke. To be honest, from the moment he saw the small size of the room, he hadn't thought highly of the teacher standing before him, feeling that his level was certainly mediocre. Sure enough, the teacher's eyes were slightly closed, making it impossible to guess what he was thinking. Only when he requested guidance did the opponent open his eyes wide, slowly look him over, and a faint smile appear at the corner of his mouth. "You've suffered a wound." Or in other words, you were rejected.
Huh? Zhang Yang was stunned, his face immediately flushing red with shame. I once had a crush on a young woman, and then I was directly rejected. But this has nothing to do with the teacher. He had once secretly admired a young woman, and then excitedly confessed his feelings to her. The result was that she mocked him mercilessly. Furthermore, she criticized him harshly, humiliating him greatly. This was his secret. He hadn't even told Mo Shao. So how could this teacher know? Really? Zheng Yang, you were rejected. Why didn't you tell me? Who was it? Mo Shao was instantly dumbfounded and rushed to ask when his friend admitted it. I'll tell you later when we get back. Zheng Yang shook his head. He clearly didn't want to say too much in this place. He looked up at the teacher standing before him. Teacher, this is my private matter. Although I don't know how the teacher knows about this, it has nothing to do with guidance, right? Nothing to do with it. Zheng Yang shook his head and continued. Not only is it related, it is very related. Related? Zheng Yang was skeptical. I just had a heartbreak. How is that related to his guidance? Your spear technique is powerful and decisive. It reflects your personality, brave and forward-moving in everything you do, never thinking of retreat. This should have been a good thing. A martial artist should be like this, without worrying too much. Zhang Yang's expression was calm, and he continued. But regrettably, having gone through that rejection, you have started to feel fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of humiliation. This has caused a slight hesitation, a hint of doubt to creep into your spear technique. It is precisely because of this that its power has severely diminished. Teacher, did you really see that from my spear technique? See that I was heartbroken? See my personality? Zheng Yang was terrified. It wasn't that the opponent was wrong, but that he was too accurate, almost flawless. His personality was originally brave and decisive. In the past, he did things without fear. But it was true that since that rejection, he had become withdrawn, hesitant, and afraid to make decisions. Just by looking at his spear technique, he could guess such things, even seeing that he had been heartbroken. What kind of discerning eye is this? Does the academy have such a formidable teacher? He felt like he was going crazy. Earlier, he went to see Teacher Wang, the person considered the best teacher for spear arts, hoping to become his student. He also performed his best technique for the teacher to see. Teacher Wang only said that his spear technique hadn't grasped the key points, but the reason why the teacher didn't explain. Yet this person before him, with just a quick glance, directly said that he had been heartbroken, and that because of emotional failure, his spear technique couldn't advance. Could it be that this teacher's discerning eye is even more profound than Wang Chao's? This is nothing strange. Zheng Yang waved his hand, putting on the air of a sage, and said, "Spear technique reflects the heart. If the mind is not clear and unobstructed, the martial art displayed will naturally be clouded. Although your spear technique is continuous and unbroken, it is as if it is entangled by something, unable to cut through, and the more you focus on it, the more chaotic it becomes. Just a quick glance told me it was definitely an emotional issue." This time, not only Zheng Yang wanted to go mad, But even Mo Xiao, standing nearby, was astonished, his mouth wide open, almost big enough to fit a chicken egg. Good heavens, is this real? Just by looking at a spear technique, he could see emotional disturbance, that it couldn't cut through the entanglement, and that the more he cared, the more chaotic it became. Are these really human eyes? Mo Xiao and Zhang Yang looked at each other, both seeing incredible shock in the other's eyes. Teacher, can you observe me as well? After his astonishment, Mo Xiao suddenly stepped forward, his face full of eagerness. Regardless of whether Zhang Yang agreed or not, the hand holding the long spear trembled and began performing his moves.
It was also a spear technique, but Mo Xiao's movements were much more fluid and powerful than Zhen Yang's. If judged purely by the spear technique, Mo Xiao was indeed better. No wonder teacher Wang Chao chose Mo Xiao and not Zheng Yang. A burst of wind howled past, and Mo Xiao retracted his spear, standing upright. The spear was like a peerless mad demon in motion. Its unleashed power made even gods and ghosts dare not approach. Retracting the spear, he was still like a maiden, quiet like a sculpture. Every lift of the hand, every extension of the foot naturally formed a style. Although his strength was not very powerful, still a martial artist at the first level. Purely regarding the spear technique, it was considered excellent. Your stomach is not well. If I'm not mistaken, you are suffering from diarrhea today, aren't you? Zhang Shang looked at Mo Xiao with an indifferent gaze. Huh? Mo Xiao trembled, saying, Teacher, did you see that I have diarrhea from my spear technique? Just as Zhang Shan said, his stomach was indeed having some problems. He had a slight bout of diarrhea yesterday. Today, the illness was even more severe, and his body was somewhat weak. However, he wasn't significantly affected. When holding the long spear in his hand, he performed in the most flawless state. Even teacher Wang Chao praised him endlessly and didn't mention anything. Yet this teacher opened his mouth and immediately hit the nail on the head. Is this real? To see both heartbreak and diarrhea from a spear technique, what kind of discerning eye is this? Do you want me to give guidance? If you do, then acknowledge me as your master immediately. Ignoring the terrified expressions of the two young men, Zhang Shan looked at them indifferently. In one breath, he spoke of the conditions of both individuals, startling them to the point of wanting to go crazy. But his expression was as if those words were nothing. In reality, it was indeed so. The moment the two began performing their spear techniques, 2 books about them appeared in the Library of Heaven's Path. The so-called heartbreak or diarrhea were just current flaws of the 2 individuals, so they were all recorded in the book. Zhang Shan's only task was to glance through and read it out mechanically, so it was naturally not difficult at all. Student Zhang Yang, I willingly acknowledge the teacher as my master. Zhang Yang did not hesitate, directly kneeling down. He was now completely convinced by Zhongshan. How could a teacher with such discerning eyes be simple? The teacher hadn't even given guidance, only pointed out one of his flaws, and he immediately knelt down. Zhongshan nodded in satisfaction, took out an identity token, tossed it to Zheng Yang, and said, "Authenticate your identity." Yes. Zhang Yang did not hesitate, cutting his finger to drop blood on the token for authentication. Very quickly, the procedure was complete. "Since you are now my student, I will give you a piece of advice. If you want respect in love, you must first have enough strength. Without strength, how can others value you? So what you need to do now is not be depressed, not be heartbroken, but to put aside emotions, cultivate diligently, and make that young woman realize how foolish she was to reject you. You must use your strength to prove." Speaking up to this point, Zhongshan suddenly remembered a very impressive phrase, smiled faintly, and said, 30 years east of the river, 30 years west of the river. Don't bully a young pauper. Don't bully a young pauper." After hearing the teacher's words, Zhang Yang immediately felt a warmth surge through his chest. His entire body agitated, his face flushed, and his body involuntarily trembled slightly. As a native of this alternate world, he had never heard such words before. In an instant, fighting spirit filled his entire body. The spirit that had previously been depressed due to heartbreak now shone bright like a diamond.
Try performing your spear technique again. Seeing that he had cast aside his hang-up, Zhang Shuan waved his hand and said, "Yes." Zhang Zhang didn't say anything further, clutching the long spear in his hand. In an instant, his demeanor completely changed, entirely different from before. Rumble, 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 rumble. The spear tip swept around, the aura surging, and powerful force penetrated through the shaft, shaking the entire room and filling it with the sound of thunder. Clang! The spear technique was completed. The spear shaft lay horizontally, the tip stabbing straight into the stone pillar. A loud explosion rang out. Then a series of numbers appeared on the stone pillar. 235. It was 235. Earlier, using all his strength, he could only hit 110. But after a single sentence of guidance from the teacher, his force had unexpectedly more than doubled. "Thank you, teacher." Looking at the number displayed on the stone pillar not far away, Mo Xiao's face also uncontrollably flushed red, his entire body trembling. He was happy that his best friend had found a good teacher, but he also felt a slight loss. Earlier, teacher Wang Chao had also guided him, but only managed to increase his force by about 30%. Yet this teacher before him could help Zhang Zhang increase his strength by over 100%.
If he had known this unknown teacher was so formidable, he wouldn't have wasted so much effort looking for that Wang Chao. He would have come here directly to acknowledge him as a master. Thinking this, he felt a slight regret. But at the same time, he was also somewhat confused. A teacher with such formidable spear arts, why did he have no reputation? He couldn't help but look up and ask, "Teacher, you have accepted Zhang Yang as your student, but we still don't know the teacher's name." Hearing his indirect question, Zhang Yang also couldn't help but look over. He was completely convinced by this teacher, but he didn't even know his name. "I am Zhang Shuan," Zhang Shuan said, showing no emotion. Zhang Shuan. That name sounds familiar. Hearing the teacher's name, Mo Xiao was slightly stunned. Immediately after, he seemed to recall something, his pupils contracted, and his lips trembled uncontrollably, as he said, "I remember there was a useless teacher who received a 0 on the teacher evaluation, also named Zhang Shuan. It seems it's the same as the teacher's name." I am that useless teacher. Zhang Shuan nodded. Zhang Yang and Mo Xiao were instantly petrified.
Fine, you said you recruited 4 students. So now call those students here so we can verify it. Or are you just presenting your face for us to slap? Looking at the guy who always ranks first from the bottom, still pretending to be arrogant and wanting to bet with the 4 of them, Qian Biao sneered. "Called the students here?" Zhang Shan shook his head. "You are all teachers in the logistics hall. Don't you even know the simplest way to get the answer? If you want to confirm whether I have recruited 4 students, it's very simple. As long as a student drops blood on the identity token to accept me as their teacher, the education office will immediately and automatically store the student's background information. Just go to the education office and check, and you will know the answer. The education office would never collude with me to deceive you people. The moment a student's identity is authenticated, the information automatically transmits to the education office. Their detailed records are kept. No one, regardless of who they are, can fake this. Li Yuan, you go over there and check. I want to see how this person can keep up his act in a little while." Hearing Zhang Shan speak and seeing his confident expression, Qian Biao was stunned for a moment, then turned his head and spoke to Li Yuan. Li Yuan was also one of the teachers who had mocked Zhang Shan earlier. Hearing this, he turned and went out. The education office and the logistics hall were both administrative departments, and the distance between them wasn't too far. Therefore, Li Yuan wasn't out for long. After checking, he returned with a downcast expression. "Well?" Seeing his demeanor, Qian Biao's heart pounded, a bad feeling rising within him. There truly are 4 students who accepted him as their teacher. Here is the list and their detailed information. Li Yuan's face was pale green. Even now he couldn't believe this was true.
Could it be that these 4 students are all blind? With so many teachers in Hengtian Academy, they didn't choose any of them, but deliberately chose a teacher who scored 0 on the evaluation? Even if they chose randomly, it wouldn't be this person's turn. Let me see. Be careful. He might have just found some random, blind, crippled kids who were expelled from the school to be his students. Jian Biao snatched the list. The 2 remaining teachers also rushed to crowd around and look. It wasn't uncommon for many teachers, in order to increase their student count, to accept weak, subpar students just to fill the quota. These students could be expelled at any time. Even if they were kept, they wouldn't last more than a few months. Jian Biao believed that for someone like Zhang Shun, who always ranked last in the evaluation, even if he managed to recruit students, they would certainly be the most mediocre, useless, unwanted students. Accepting such people just to meet the quota was not only nothing to be proud of, but actually very embarrassing. Wang Ying. A female student, right? Just hearing the name tells you she's probably nothing special. She must be one of the students with the worst entrance exam scores. Looking at the first name on the list, Qian Biao said coldly, "Not everyone could enter Hengtian Academy. To get in, they first had to take an entrance exam. The academy would rank them based on their scores, and only those who met the criteria could be accepted. Students who scored high on the entrance exam were always the targets of competition among the excellent teachers. In the list of excellent students, there seemed to be no one named Wang Ying. Teacher Qian, look down here." Before Qian Biao could finish, he heard a slightly trembling voice from the teacher next to him. "What is it? Could it be even worse than what I said?" With a cold laugh, Jian Biao looked down. With just a glance, his eyes focused on one spot. He saw a line of detailed annotation after the name Wang Ying. "Daughter of the Wang clan? Younger sister of Wang Tao?" Jian Biao was terrified. There were 4 great clans in Tianshuan Kingdom. The Wang clan was at the top. A young lady of such a famous clan accepting a teacher who always ranked last in the evaluation as her master. Was this real or a joke? Shouldn't these students be accepting people like Lu Shun or Wang Shan as their teachers? If the clan name only made him afraid, what truly devastated him was Wang Tao's older brother. Every year after enrollment, classes would conduct a comprehensive evaluation. In the new students from the previous year, this person's name was always in the top 10 ranks. This year, he was highly regarded by an elder in the academy and accepted as a direct disciple. With such a genius older brother, how could the younger sister be incompetent? She has status, she has talent, and she has a genius older brother. So why did she accept this person as her teacher? Could she be blind and mistaken? Jian Biao felt like he had been struck by lightning several times. He almost wanted to just faint.
You all quickly look below this, just as his entire body was trembling, unable to believe this truth. Another teacher spoke with a tremor. Accepting a student like Wang Ying counts as sheer luck for him. I don't believe he could recruit any more students better than her. Gritting his teeth, Qian Biao looked at the next name on the list. When he saw this name, his whole body trembled again, and his vision darkened. Zhao Jia, the student ranked 7th in the entrance exam? Zhao Jia, the daughter of the Lord of White Aid City? Chan Biao was on the verge of tears. He had just said he didn't believe someone like Zhang Xun could recruit more excellent students, but he never imagined in his dreams that it would actually happen. Not only did he recruit excellent students, but they were outstanding students that many teachers competed for. He had heard about this Zhao Jia before she arrived. She was the daughter of the Lord of White Aid City. Not only was she beautiful, but her talent, 3, was also very high. Students of this caliber would be highly sought after by many top-ranked teachers. How could she accept this useless person as her master? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. He tried to remain patient and looked down the list again. Lu Jiang, Zheng Yang. These 2 names, although not overly famous, also had decent rankings in the new student entrance exam, still placing within the top 100. Especially Zheng Yang, who was said to specialize in the spear. During the exam, he didn't have the space to fully display his skills, which is why his ranking was lower. If he had been allowed to use his spear, he might have claimed a spot among the top 20 on the list. Holding the list of 4 students and examining it repeatedly, Chan Biao and the other teachers all felt like they were going mad. This was truly illogical. You must have used some trick to deceive us. Although they accepted you as their teacher, it's certainly because they didn't know who you were. Once they find out, they will drop the class soon enough. Suddenly, Chan Biao's face became ferocious, and he shouted loudly. A teacher who scored 0 on the evaluation? What right did he have to recruit such outstanding students? He must have resorted to some despicable, shameless trick that others didn't know about. Once this low-down trick is exposed, those students will definitely leave in anger. In other words, it was true that he had 4 students, but these students wouldn't stay in his class for long. They would soon drop out. Whether they drop the class or not is none of your business. Did we agree in the bet on whether I have students now? Currently, you all have confirmed that I have 4 students. So, shouldn't you all fulfill the terms of the bet now? Ignoring the ferocious faces and chaotic thoughts of the 4, Zhang Xun said calmly. The expressions of the 4, Chan Biao and Li Yun included, were as dark as if attending a funeral. The content of their bet was indeed whether he had students now, without mentioning what happened later. If that was the case, they had lost. However, telling them to admit defeat and be slapped by the worst teacher in the school was unacceptable. The bet, "Kid, what if we don't comply?" Hesitating for a moment, Chan Biao sneered, his fat face filled with menace. "Exactly. Kid, what are you to us? You want to slap me? Do you believe that the 4 of us beat you into a pig's head right now, that no one would dare to defend you? Stop pretending so much. Maybe you can stay at the academy longer. Otherwise, you'll be expelled from the academy soon, and you'll lose face and be embarrassed too." The group of Li Yun immediately understood Chan Biao's intention and sneered at the same time. Zhang Xun was the teacher with the worst evaluation score and lowest cultivation among all the teachers, so there was nothing to worry about. Even if he wasn't ranked last, he wasn't far from it. Therefore, his observation skills couldn't be high enough to spot the weaknesses of students during their cultivation. The group of Chan Biao naturally didn't want to be slapped. Since the opponent's strength was low, they intended to directly renege on the bet shamelessly. "Oh, so you guys intend not to fulfill the bet?" Zhang Xun wasn't angry, he just looked over with a gentle smile. "That's right. Kid, what the heck are you to me? You want to slap me? Do you believe I'll beat you to death right now?" Seeing that the kid didn't know his place and maintained an arrogant look, Li Yun immediately became furious and raised his hand to slap him. Before the palm reached Zhang Xun's face, a powerful gust of wind rushed in, making people feel breathless. Although this Li Yun was just a logistics teacher, his cultivation was not low at all. He had reached the late stage of martial arts' fourth layer. Each subsequent layer is harder to cultivate. Each layer is also divided into 4 stages: early, middle, late, and peak. Zhang Xun was the youngest teacher in the academy, only 19 this year, and his cultivation had only reached the peak of the martial arts' 3rd layer, true Qi Ream. The Yun was entirely 1 level higher than him. When there is such a large disparity in levels between 2 people, the lower-level person cannot possibly defeat the opponent. Bang! Just when everyone present thought Li Yun was certain to slap Zhang Xun's face, making his head spin, a loud noise suddenly appeared. Immediately after, the group saw Li Yun's face slightly red, fresh blood spewing out, and teeth scattering all over the floor. "What is this? How dare he?" Everyone froze in place. They all wanted to go crazy.
If you gentlemen want to talk about rules, simple. I will also talk about rules. Zhang Xuan's expression was cold. He took a few steps and stopped in front of Qian Bao. Teacher Qian Bao, half a year ago, you secretly took Elder Chen Ming's treasure to curry favor with his concubine. 3 months ago, you embezzled public funds and acted as the secret buyer for property purchases. A month ago, you shattered Elder Lu Quan's most cherished porcelain vase and framed the student, who was then wrongly expelled for no reason. Do you want me to bring these matters before the principal and state them one by one? You. His pupils contracted, and his chubby body trembled uncontrollably. Fear spread throughout his entire being. He looked like he had seen a ghost and was about to go mad. He had done all these things very discreetly. No one was supposed to know. Even Li Yuan, his frequent colleague, didn't know. How could this guy possibly know? And stated in such detail. Ignoring Qian Bao's terrified expression, Zhang Xuan turned to look at Li Yuan. Teacher Li Yuan, 3 years ago, for your own benefit, you framed a female student, causing that young woman to commit suicide. I wonder if her vengeful spirit has come looking for you. Not long ago, a large boil appeared on your back. It must be that young woman coming for revenge, right? Ah! Hearing this, Li Yuan was scared out of his wits and slowly retreated, his face drained of all color. 3 years ago, he was involved in a troublesome incident that could have gotten him expelled. In that dangerous situation, he framed one of his students. Unable to bear the injustice, the young woman ultimately committed suicide out of shame and anger. He concealed this matter very carefully. No one knew about it besides himself. Due to a guilty conscience, he had frequently dreamed of the vengeful spirit coming for his life over the past 3 years. Half a month ago, a large boil, shaped like a human hand, grew on his back, terrifying him to the point where he almost couldn't survive. Now, hearing Zhang Xuan recount the details so clearly, he was scared even more, his entire body trembling. Thud. His knees gave way and he fell to the ground. Immediately after, the group smelled a foul odor. Clearly, a powerful expert at the late-stage martial artist 4th layer was scared so badly that he wet himself. Looking at the remaining 2 teachers, Zhang Xuan said, "Teacher Du Chun, you seized your brother's property and poisoned him with wine, killing him. That incident was suppressed back then, and nothing could be done. Do you feel that if this matter were exposed now, you could still keep this teacher position? Teacher Bai Lin, although your actions are not major crimes, because of your fondness for antiques, you must have received quite a few gifts from students regularly. If I am not mistaken, the ancient jade ring you are wearing on your hand
was given to you by a student who needed your help with a matter. What that matter was, and which student, do you need me to explain it in detail here? You are a devil. You are not human. The two remaining teachers were also so terrified that their bodies trembled. They looked at the opponent again, their eyes full of horror. Even if the things they did weren't absolute secrets, they were certainly unknown to outsiders. Yet how could this guy know everything so clearly? The answer was simple. He must be a devil. If the news spread that he defeated him with low cultivation, it would only make them lose face, but they wouldn't be afraid. However, if he truly revealed these matters, it terrified them. It was like all the clothes they were wearing were instantly ripped to shreds, leaving them naked before everyone. One could guess that if these things were exposed, losing their teacher status would be a minor issue. If done poorly, they could even be sent to the teachers' tribunal and executed on the spot. We were wrong. Teacher Zhang Xuan, you are a great man. Please forgive us. Trembling all over, they couldn't help but plead for mercy. I don't have time to care about the things you did before, and I don't want to pay attention to them. In the future, just stop bothering me. Furthermore, if I find out later that you haven't changed your ways, even unto death, still doing these ruthless, inhumane things, I will ensure you all receive the appropriate punishment. Zhang Xuan flicked his sleeve. Actually, if these people hadn't bothered him, he wouldn't have cared about them either. The Library of Heaven's Path could detect all of a person's flaws, personality, and actions. These things were just a small part of what was recorded there. But he is not a savior, so whatever they did before, or whatever they do in the future, as long as it wasn't aimed at him, he wouldn't pay attention. These people really shouldn't have come looking for trouble, and they deliberately made things difficult for him. If you make things difficult for me, I will crush you. I will ensure you never dare to think about bothering me a second time in your life. We wouldn't dare. We wouldn't dare again. Teacher Zhang Xuan, here are the identity tokens you want. Take as many as you wish. Hearing Zhang Xuan promise not to expose these matters, the group of Qian Bao breathed a sigh of relief, repeatedly begging for forgiveness. They couldn't defeat him, and the opponent held their weaknesses, so begging for mercy was their only option.
Yet this kid, who was only at the true Qi realm, was able to defeat a powerful expert at the skin and bone realm, making them spit fresh blood and unable to stand. This is truly hard to believe. Didn't this person rank last in the previous teacher evaluation? So, why is he so powerful now? It must be luck. There's no need to fear him, Qian Biao yelled loudly. Another teacher thought the same thing and immediately rushed forward. He, like Li Wan, had also reached the late stage of the skin and bone realm. With just a slight movement of his body, his muscles and skin became hard as steel, creating a defense that felt impenetrable. Time to go down. When he arrived in front of Zhang Zhang, this teacher raised his eyebrows and simultaneously unleashed a powerful palm strike. Bang, bang! The compressed air let out a huge explosion. Facing the opponent's ruthless move, Zhang Zhang's face didn't change. He held his index and middle fingers together, closing them and tilting them slightly upward. Click! The teacher, with the body as hard as steel, felt a sharp pain under his armpit, his eyes darkened, and he collapsed onto the ground. What? In just 2 moves, 2 teachers at the martial artist 4th layer realm were defeated and seriously injured. If even Qian Biao and the last remaining teacher were idiots, they would realize that the teacher they always scorned was truly not simple. Attack together. Shouting loudly, Qian Biao raised his fist and charged forward. But before he could strike, he saw Zhang Zhang appear in front of him, without him realizing it. The opponent's left hand swiped his face, and his right hand gently jabbed him. Poof, poof! With a sharp pain below his abdomen, Qian Biao immediately fell to the ground. Just as he fell, the last remaining teacher, the one who had charged Zhang Zhang with him earlier, was also convulsing violently on the ground. How did you know the gate of life, Meng Mon, acupoint of all of us? Spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood, Qian Biao's face was filled with terror as he looked at the youth before him. He finally understood why the opponent's strength was far below the four of them, yet the result was the complete opposite. The moment he attacked, he struck their gate of life acupoint. How could they possibly resist? Almost every cultivator has a weak point. Once that point is struck, even a child can kill them. But the gate of life acupoint is also the most crucial point for every person. Cultivators must always protect it closely. Even the closest people should not be shown it. Although Zhang Zhang's strength was not great, it seemed he knew where their gate of life acupoints were located. So, the moment he attacked, he struck their weak point. How could he possibly know their gate of life acupoints? Hearing the astonishment in the opponent's words, Zhang Zhang smiled and didn't bother to explain. Of course, it was thanks to the library. The Library of Heaven's Path could not only discern the weaknesses of cultivation methods, but also identify problems in the cultivators themselves. The Gate of Life acupoint was recorded in great detail there. Knowing the Gate of Life acupoints and the flaws and shortcomings in their movements, even though Zhang Zhang was a transmigrator from Earth, still unfamiliar with the cultivation methods of this foreign world, too, he could easily defeat the four of them. Since you placed a bet, you should have considered fulfilling the agreement. If you gentlemen had been reasonable and allowed me to slap you a few times, this trouble wouldn't have happened. Zhang Zhang chuckled softly. Zhang Zhang, don't get too complacent. Although I don't know what despicable trick you used to find our Gate of Life acupoints and injure us, but as the lowest-ranking teacher, daring to publicly strike other teachers, with this alone, we can report you to the academy and revoke your teacher qualifications, Qian Biao roared. The ranks of all teachers in the academy were different. If a lower-ranking teacher dared to strike a higher-ranking teacher, it was an act of great insubordination. Zhang Zhang was young and a teacher with a 0 score, belonging to the lowest rank, yet he dared to strike 4 people of higher rank. Once this news reached the school, it would surely cause a huge uproar. Revoking his teacher status would be a light penalty. If he wasn't careful, he could even be expelled. What? Since you couldn't defeat me with strength, you want to talk about rules? Facing the opponent's threat, Zhang Zhang seemed completely unfazed. Exactly. Li Wan also seized this point, a glimmer of excited ruthlessness flashing in his eyes.
Immediately kneel down before us obediently, and let us beat us up. Perhaps when our mood improves, we won't report this to the academy. Otherwise, prepare to be expelled. If you are expelled from the profession without the protection of your teacher status, no one would dare say anything if we kill you, another teacher shouted. In Tianshuan, academy teachers held a high status. But once this status was lost, it was like falling into an abyss. These people were highly likely to kill him.
1 hour later, Zhang Xuan walked out of the logistics hall, his eyes shining with excitement. If it had been the previous owner of this body, he would surely have suffered great injustice today. Fortunately, thanks to the Library of Heaven's Path, his life was now completely different, moving onto a better path. Perhaps transmigrating is a good thing. I like this colorful life. Zhang Xuan clenched his fist and sighed. In his past life, he was just a low-level library manager, living ordinary, simple, and tedious days. Even if he persisted in that job, he would only receive a fixed salary, living boring, meaningless days. But here, it was completely different. With the Library of Heaven's Path, this great gift for a transmigrator, he could develop further in the future. His path to advancement was wider, turning his life into a new, richer, and brighter direction. At this moment, Zhang Xuan had adapted to life here and completely wanted to live in this world. He no longer felt lost or miserable being in a strange place. "Don't pull me! Let me die! I want to die!" Just as he was quietly celebrating, he heard a tragic cry not far away. The weeping sounded like a mad bison, truly heartbreaking. Turning his head to look, he saw a plump youth shouting that he wanted to jump into the academy's artificial lake to commit suicide. There was no one behind the chubby youth trying to stop him. He wasn't advancing towards the lake, yet he kept shouting. Suddenly, he unexpectedly turned around, tightly grabbed the arm of a student standing nearby, pulling it onto himself, creating the false impression that the other student was pulling him back, and then continued to shout loudly. "Don't pull me! Let me die! I want to die!" Everyone who saw this was exasperated by him. Truly shameless. Zhang Xuan shook his head. This chubby youth clearly didn't want to die, yet he pretended that others were trying to stop him from committing suicide. What a shameless thing. Knowing that the chubby youth wouldn't die, he was too lazy to pay attention to him, and continued toward his classroom. But before he had gone far, he heard the shouting getting closer and closer. The ground began to vibrate, as if there was an earthquake. Immediately after, 2 chubby arms wrapped around his thighs. "Teacher, please, I beg the teacher, please accept me as your student. All the other teachers rejected me because they said I was too fat." The chubby youth cried aloud again. "Wah!" "Let me go first." Zhang Xuan was helpless with the youth. "This chubby kid is strange. He sees me and immediately rushes over, asking me to accept him as a student." He had never encountered this type of person before. "I won't let go until the teacher agrees to accept me as your student." The chubby youth's face was still messy with tears and snot, his voice full of pitifulness that made others feel heartache.
Today, I asked 10 teachers to accept me as a student, but none of them wanted me. Teacher, I am truly pitiful. Please take pity on me and accept me as your student." In the student entrance exam, one of the most important factors was the teacher's decision. This kid was so fat that his combat strength and agility would surely suffer greatly. So, generally, no famous teacher wanted to recruit a student like him. If you want the teacher to accept you, at least you have to let the teacher see your ability, right? What's the use of hugging the teacher's leg? Zhang Xuan said gently. Because he had the Library of Heaven's Path, recruiting students was no longer a difficult problem. But if the student was too incompetent, he couldn't accept them either. Teacher, the teacher must accept me as a student. I am quite capable, you know. The chubby youth hesitated for a moment, then looked up and slowly let go of his hands. Whether you are capable or not, you have to show it for me to know. Talking so much is useless. Zhang Xuan angrily kicked him. What the heck? If a female student ran over and hugged his leg, that would be one thing. A male child, and a chubby one at that? The thought alone is terrifying. All right, watch me. The chubby youth didn't feel the least bit rejected. He stood up, looked around, grabbed a few bricks from nearby, and held one up to smash against his own head. Pop! The brick shattered into pieces. Immediately after, he picked up the remaining bricks and smashed them against his arms and legs, one after the other.
Although this youth was very fat, he had unexpectedly managed to cultivate this type of hard cultivation martial art. Ignoring his performance, Zhang Xuan focused on the recording book appearing in his mind. Hard cultivation was also a type of martial art. The moment the youth performed his first move, the library immediately compiled information related to him. Yuan Tao, rogue cultivator from Diwan City, martial artist who just broke into the early-stage gathering breath realm. Flaws: 18 places. First, possesses the Longzi dragon bloodline from the primeval era within his body, but it has not yet been activated. Second, the foundation is too poor, the method of cultivation. Longzi bloodline? Looking at the text on the record, Zhang Xuan was surprised. Combining this with the memories of the body's previous owner, he knew that in this world, bloodlines and innate constitutions were very important. As long as one possessed either of these two things and applied the right method, their future cultivation would surely accelerate rapidly, becoming stronger and stronger. Innate constitutions were divided into many types: pure in-body, pure young body, immaculate body, golden body. Bloodlines were also divided into many types: ancient bloodline, new bloodline, inherited bloodline, variant bloodline. Those belonging to these categories, if discovered, would become the target of competition among teachers. This chubby youth had the Longzi bloodline, an ancient bloodline, and a new bloodline of the primeval era. According to legend, if successfully cultivated, he could reach a state where swords and blades could not injure him, nothing could harm him, making it one of the top defensive bloodlines. This ordinary, fat, and shameless chubby kid actually had an ancient bloodline in his body? The ancient bloodline hasn't even been activated yet. It seems even this kid doesn't fully understand himself. Zhang Xuan's eyes brightened. Among the bloodlines, the ancient bloodline was considered the strongest. The fact that this chubby youth asked more than 10 teachers to accept him and was rejected by all of them wasn't because they knew about this, but because the bloodline within him hadn't been activated, so his body was no different from an ordinary person. No wonder the others couldn't see it. Even he himself probably didn't know it. But even if he didn't know, there was one good thing.
His defense was much stronger than an ordinary person. This is how he could practice this type of suffering blows martial art. I must accept this kid as my student. Zhang Xuan's eyes lit up. A student with an ancient bloodline. Who knows how many years the academy would have to wait to find one? With such a good inheritor right in front of him, how could he let him go? All right, the teacher will accept you as a student now. Hurry up and perform the ceremony to acknowledge me as your master. Thinking this, Zhang Xuan concealed his excitement and with an indifferent expression tossed out the identity token. Teacher, does the teacher truly want to accept me as a student? That's great. Perhaps because the chubby youth had been mocked too much, he was overjoyed when he heard a teacher wanted to accept him. He didn't hesitate to cut his finger and drip the fresh blood onto the Yade token. It is said that a teacher recruits students of his own kind. This is truly accurate. The teacher is trash, and the student is also trash. Just as he was speaking, a cold snort suddenly rang out. Turning his head, he saw a coldly arrogant young man walking over. Beside the young man was a beautiful young woman, her dark hair draped over her shoulders, her skin fair as frozen fat, and her dark eyes looking over, astounding everyone with her beauty. Shangben, Shen Biru. Two names immediately appeared in Zhang Xuan's mind as he saw the two approach. Speaking of Shen Biru, no one in this entire academy didn't know her, and no one hadn't heard tales of her.
It wasn't because she had a special status, but because she was recognized by everyone in the school as the most beautiful teacher. Even the school beauty paled in comparison to her. But that wasn't all. The important thing was that she was also an excellent teacher. Having only been at the school for less than a year, she had already become one of the most famous and capable teachers. Noble yet elegant, beautiful yet learned, she attracted many teachers to pursue her. The owner of this body was also one of those suitors. It's just that the previous Zhang Huan had too many flaws. His cultivation was low, and he always ranked last in all evaluations. Because of his inferiority complex, although he had feelings for her, he had never even spoken to the goddess in his heart, let alone pursued her. The young man Shang Bin was the nephew of Elder Shen in the academy, and also one of her pursuers, often relying on his status to suppress other suitors. He must have heard from somewhere that Shang Huan also liked Shen Biru, so every time they met, he would mock and provoke him, even once resorting to physical violence against Shang Huan. But Shen Biru seemed completely indifferent to him. She always maintained a cold, detached demeanor, making Shang Bin anxious and helpless. "Who did you say was trash?" Hearing the mocking words from Shang Bin, Zhang Huan wasn't angry, but turned his head to look over. "I'm talking about you. Who else?" Shang Bin sneered. "Ah, indeed, it's trash talking about me. How foul, how truly foul." Zhang Huan fanned his sleeve, putting on a look of disgust. "You—" Only now did Shang Bin realize he had been mocked by the bottom-ranked guy in the school. His face turned red with anger.